So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the granddaddy of virtual reality, and that is Vista Pro for the Amiga. Vista Pro was one of the earliest applications that allowed us to create 3D worlds relatively easy, and is also an application that I have a lot of fondness for. I was using Vista Pro while I was in high school to create frames, animation frames, and then taking those over to a PC and using Autodesk Animator to create coursework for my art class. So I've got a lot of fondness for this old application, and this video, I guess, is kind of targeted towards my 14-year-old self. I wish this is something that I had when I was 14 years old, so I could have made better animations. So let's get on with the tutorial, and thanks for watching. Okay, let's get started setting up a scene in Vista Pro. So this tutorial, it isn't meant to be a replacement for the manual. It's more of a walkthrough of the user interface and how to get started in setting up a quick scene. Under the top menu, we're going to go to Project, and we're going to set the canvas size. If we do this later on, we're going to reset the canvas. So we're just going to set this now. And likewise, we're also going to set the graphics. This can be done at any point during the process, but if you choose the wrong settings, the wrong combination of settings, it could crash Vista Pro and you could lose your work. So here we see we have some extra options. We have 256 colors and Ham 8. Those are being incorrectly displayed due to the fact that I have a Kickstart 3.1 ROM in this machine. And Vista Pro thinks I have an AGA capable machine, so if we chose those, it could crash. And we also have EHB and Ham. Ham being 4096 colors, and EHB is 32 colors and another 32 of half bright. If I chose high res with either of those, it could crash again. And also an interesting point, if we did generate a scene, an image with those extra colors, and import it into a modern workflow into Photoshop, those extra colors will come out as black. So we're just going to leave this as the pure 32 standard colors for the Amiga. We're going to set the image size to a nice great big image, and that looks pretty good. Okay. Next up, we're going to, well, actually, first of all, we should notice that the control panel over here on the right hand side is broken up into three areas. The top area is to do with camera and targeting, and the second box, the second panel, is more for the details of the scenery. Rivers, tree lines, snow line, haze, clouds, and trees, and all those good things. We'll come back to taking a look at those. And the third one down the bottom here is, this contains four sub-panels. The first being for rendering settings. The second is the lens for the camera. Third is a fractal generator, and the fourth is the light, the sun direction. But we're going to now start over in the fractal generation. So we have some other options down here. So we have FRDim, and the higher we set FRDim, the higher the peaks are going to be within the scenery. And we also have some other divisors over here. So it's kind of a little bit misleading. We have 8, 4, 2, and 1. These set the ruggedness of the terrain. You would have thought that the more rugged the terrain, the higher the number, but that actually is incorrect. These tools here, they divide the scenery, they divide the fractal generator. So if we chose a 1, we're not going to be dividing the base number that we're working with. So we're actually just going to leave that as 1. And we're going to randomly generate a number. Randomly generating a number will create a 1 in 4 million scenery. And here we see over here on our canvas now we have we have a sort of a topographical map. It ranges from the dark greens to the light greens. Dark greens being the lowest elevation, to going up into light greens and then to dark browns, into light browns, so we keep getting higher and higher, and finally we get above tree line, we start getting into the greys, the light greys, and finally in the whites where it's our snow-capped peaks. So that scenery looks pretty good. Now we're going to, we'll turn this into a bit of an ocean with some islands. So we're going to click sea level in our middle panel, and let's choose kind of a mid-level, kind of a light brown. We click into the light brown, and it should place an ocean at that level and below, and then flooding out the terrain. Let's generate waves. Okay, there's some nice islands. Okay, next up, let's get a rough view of how this looks. So we're going to set our targeting and our camera. Our target being where our camera is pointing to. We're going to target straight up to the top of that big peak, and let's get a good view of the ranges leading to that. So we're going to set our camera down here at the bottom. So you'll see I clicked into the ocean, and it set the heights, it set the altitude of the camera at 19. So I could actually, let's take that altitude up to say 600. Give it an altitude of 600. Now if I wanted to leave it at 600, but I wanted to move the camera around on the X and the Y axis, I can click the Z button and then start moving it around to get a better placement. But let's leave it where it is, right about there, and let's click. If we click P, this will give us a rough wireframe view of how the scene should look. Okay. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so we've got our camera set, so now let's move down back into our middle panel, and let's set some trees. So the trees panel can look a little overwhelming, but to break it down, we have pines, oaks, grass, palms, and cactus, our different tree types. And also we have down the side of each one, we have a 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's a breakdown, a rough breakdown of the elevations within our scene. So for example, if I wanted pines, high altitude pines up at levels 3 and 4. So the higher the number, the higher the altitude. And at the lower elevations, I could put a couple of oaks. And we're going to change the density, the amount of trees being placed into the scene, to 120, and again 120. And so these numbers, they range from 0 to 255. I'm going to leave the grass off and click OK. Okay, next up, let's put a few clouds in there. Let's break up a flat sky. Randomly generate some clouds. The altitude, leave them at 4,000, so they're going to be 3,200 feet above our camera. And again, the cloud size, the smaller the number, the bigger the cloud. Again, it's a divisor. So the larger the number, we're going to have a lot of smaller clouds. So let's set a reasonably big clouds. Haze. This gives it a misty kind of effect, so it isn't a clear blue atmosphere. Let's pump that up a little bit. Okay, so that should be roughly all we need to get started with our scene. Now we're going to switch back down to the bottom panel, And so we have light is coming. Our sun is coming from the east, and it's at about 45 degrees. So it's maybe say mid morning, maybe later to mid morning. I'm gonna set that down to say 25. Lens, pretty much what you would expect on an SLR camera. So at the minute we've got a nice wide angle here. We could narrow that down if we wanted to. And finally, let's see how this looks. So we're just going to leave it as the default settings for now. We have a really high polygon. Well, I guess it's a low polygon count because this is another divisor. We have blending and shading and textures. Those are all turned off at the moment. So let's take a quick look and see how this scene looks. Okay. So yeah, so we can see we've got a little bit of a few ranges in the foreground here, and a nice coastline going on in the background there. So that gives us a really rough view of how the scene's going to look. So from there we can save out our DEM file and save out the IFF image if we're happy with it. But I'm now going to go ahead and I'm going to render this at a slightly higher quality. That's going to take probably 10 to 15 minutes, and I'll put this in the final slide. I'll put this as a final slide of the presentation, just so you can see how the final scene looks. But I'm going to leave that there, and I hope that you guys have been able to take away a little bit from this very old application. And thanks for watching.